Alrighty, so we're here with the first league match of the season. This is for J League, cdloomis playing Provincible. And they're in the middle of game one right now. So this one will be playing catch up a little bit on. But this is a pretty interesting looking kingdom. You have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, like I was saying a second ago, castles look really good on this board because of museum and just in general, they're tend to be a pretty solid source of alt VP. But another thing that pushes me towards really liking castles here is Shepherd. Shepherd decks are very weird in that you want to have a lot more green in them than usual because they rely on that green to draw. And castles like it when you green early rather than waiting to green at the end of the game because you have to sort of iteratively gain the more expensive castles.
Yeah, I agree with that. Castles look great, both because of Museum and Shepherd. Shepherd actually also looks pretty good here. Normally, Shepherd is pretty substantially nerfed by starting with the shelters instead of estates, because obviously that leads to it having two fewer targets. Yeah. But the castles make it very worth it. And the other card that I think pairs very well with Shepherd is Enchantress here. I think Shepherd tends to be best when you've got good duration draw, cards that will draw you at the start of your next turn. Because if you can get the Shepherd thing lined up, it draws your deck very easily. Like one Shepherd discarding a few estates, then draws you another Shepherd and a bunch of estates, which then draws you like your whole deck. But the problem is it's like really finicky in the first place. You line up like in your 5-card hand has just a Shepherd and no green cards, it goes nowhere, or just green cards and no Shepherd, goes nowhere. And so because Shepherd is so reliant on like having like initial like good starting hand, a card that increases your hand size like Enchantress, where you're seeing 7 cards instead of 5, or maybe even 9 if you play it twice. Makes it a lot more likely for Shepherd to draw well.
Yeah, Shep is definitely one of those cards that really benefits from having a bigger search space at the start of your turn.
Mm-hmm.
So how do Knights fit into the picture here?
Let
me scroll back. I want to see what the top Knight was.
I'm pretty inclined to say Knights are worth it here because there's a lot of good.
Opened with Natalie.
There's a lot of good targets here. You know, most of your draw is in the 3 to 6 range. It can hit Seers, Shepherds, Enchantresses, etc. And it can hit the castles too. Well. Yeah. So how'd they open?
I definitely like opening Natalie. That seems pretty strong on this board. If you had the 5-2, which cdloomis did.
Yeah, I dig it. It seems like the best opening here if you've got the 5-2. Gaining Enchantresses is great. You can even gain estates later for points.
Mm-hmm.
Provincible opens Snowy Village and Hideout, which I don't like much at all. Hideout's fine. Trashing early is a good idea, and Hideout's a fine trasher. Opening Snowy Village, though, just feels kind of weird. You don't need the plus buy yet, and you definitely don't need the village effect when you've opened with one other village and no terminal action cards. The village effect is doing certainly nothing for you there.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason to get Snowy early is when you need the buy, and there's nothing like Pixie or another 2 card that you want to spam here that you would want plus buy so early for. Hideout Open isn't inspiring on a board like this, where trashing maybe isn't worth quite as much when you're actually looking to build up the green. But then again, there's shelters, so you do want to kill off some of those.
Yeah, I was thinking something like Enchantress plus buy either Humble if it's available or Crumbling Castle on the turn that you've got your Hovel, so you can trash that alongside it. Could be a good opening. Yep. You could open Hideout, like Hideout Enchantress or Hideout Silver would be fine as well. I think the bigger error is Snowy Village. I think Hideout is like at least defensible. I don't know if it's obvious, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. I just think there are probably some better things to do on this board. So we're gonna see some Throne Knights coming in. This could really be havoc.
Oh yeah. I would have thrown Natalie there. I think the only 2 cards in this hand that I want to trash are the Copper and the Overgrown Estate.
Yep. Arguably, you don't even need to trash OG because it is a victory card.
It is worth 2 points with Museum.
Yeah.
So you could even consider keeping it around for sure. If you have a Shepherd. Who has the Shepherd?
Good question.
Provincible has the Shepherd. So you could keep OG around for sure if you had the Shepherd, which they don't. Now might be a good time to get one. Actually, probably the oh no. Yeah, now would be a really good time to get Shepherd, I think. Like right now.
They pick up Destry, which I don't. Yeah, I don't really like Destry here. Like, I don't think it's the best source of draw. I like Getting a castle. I would have thought like Shepherd and a castle would be a lot solider. I don't think you need a third knight right now.
Yep. Yeah, mostly I really want the Shepherd, I would think, for the draw. I want to get that Shepherd Enchantress stuff going on pretty fast. Seer would also not be a bad card for CD Loomis's deck. You could do Shepherd Seer. They've got a lot of silvers, and Seer and Silver are very natural friends.
Seer's going to grab Silver, it's going to grab Shepherd, it's going to grab Estates, so
Yeah.
it works really well in that deck.
Yeah, I think Seer, with Seer around, Silver is just like a better card for your deck than Gold is most of the time. Even if you could like have either of them for free. I remember I was just discussing the Kingdom today with N.A. Smith, where Hero was around, and the correct play was arguably to just like take a Silver rather than a Gold for free, because the main draw was Seer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another thing that's interesting about using Seer is because it can draw up Estates but chokes on Copper, it kind of changes your trashing priorities. Normally you want to kill off your Estates, slightly higher priority than killing off your Copper. But Seer kind of flips the script on that because it's pretty easy to draw through Estates with Seer, whereas Copper will really clog it up.
Yeah, and I mean that also is kind of doubly true in Shepherd around. I'd be pretty fine taking Estates in this Kingdom because they don't trip up Seer and they actively help Shepherd. And they're worth 2 points instead of 1. 3 points, or 4 points for your first one.
One of them's worth an extra, too. So Michael gets revealed. Michael is definitely very good against a Shepherd deck. Not that either of them are going for it, but like you were saying about duration draw really helps out the Shepherd deck in the same way hand size attacks really hurt the Shepherd deck. Okay, and he does grab Michael. So this could be like small castle for Provincible, trash that hollow.
Yeah, so while Knight seems strong here, I don't think that they're doing this quite right. And I think CD Loomis's hand is kind of indicative of that. They've got a bunch of Knights in it, and they're going to be able to play one of them and do not a whole lot else. I think what you really want to be doing here is building a deck that can draw itself reliably, like the Shepherd and Enchantress stuff and or Seer. That'll get you to drawing. And then with 1 or 2 Knights and some throne rooms, you can be getting in 4 Knight attacks per turn, even if you only got 2 Knights, by throning both of the Knights. And that's probably the more reliable way to get in an oppressive amount of Knight attacks than just buying lots of Knights.
Yep, especially because you happen to have some of the better Knights already, so like throning Natalie is better than playing, a different Knight afterwards because Natalie has a really useful ability on this Kingdom.
Yeah, that's true. My impression at a glance is that CD Loomis is a bit of a lead here. Well, you don't want to throw the Smithies, then you'll lose them and they'll leave your deck. But you do want to throw the Smithies.
Why are Seers at 10? Because it's J-League fully. And, sometimes you play games where Seers are going to pile before anything else, and sometimes Seers are at 10.
Yeah, I think Seer is a pretty strong card. I think on average it's probably better than Laboratory. Because in most Kingdoms it's pretty viable to build a deck around Seer. There's often good 4s, and Silver's always a fine payload to Seer.
Yeah, this is a great Seer Kingdom because essentially all the good cards except for Knights, I'm kind of ignoring Jester, but this isn't Jester's board. Sorry, Jester. Pretty much everything gets drawn by Seer. So,
yeah.
It's terrific draw here. It works great with Shepherd. We got a gold. That's fine gold, though. It's a free gold.
Yeah, we're okay with this gold. Oh, that being said, 3 golds have been gained. Let me go look at these other 2. Gains a gold. I'm going to have to complain. I'm going to have to complain.
Shep seems reasonable, Nala.
Yeah, so...
I really like that Smithy, because they don't have enough village support to really be playing that Smithy.
Yeah, I think... Smithy's normally a pretty reasonable draw card. Certainly if like Seer and Shepherd didn't exist, you could be playing with Smithies here. But when compared to Seer and Shepherd, I think it looks like a distant third in terms of best, or fourth actually with Enchantress. It's like the 4th best source of draw here. The rest of these cards all just like play well with each other, and Smithy is kind of hamstrung by the weakness of the villages.
Yeah, you don't really want to try to build a Smithy Snowy Village engine.
Yeah.
In the same way, you can build an engine using like Smithy and a trashing village or hideout. I don't know why I said a trashing village. There's not another one. But it's more starved for gains, and you're getting less draw because you're effectively taking one card out. Its hand size down by 1 instead of you're just to get the village effect. So Hideout doesn't actually give you any. Hideout's hand size is negative, and so Smithy is effectively minus a card from what it usually is.
Now, you can't just go saying there's no other trashing villages, because that's just asking to get edge cased.
That's true.
Recruiter is a great trashing village.
Lost Arts on some stuff, and
yeah, Lost Arts on on Junk Dealer or anything else. Procession is a trashing village. You can trash your necropolis with it and get a nice trashing village effect.
As H-Roll is noting, this is actually kind of a crazy museum board. Between knights and castles, there's a huge amount of differently named cards here.
Yeah.
I do not know what provinciable means by that last statement.
You watch to discover. I'm not that much of a chess player. I am...
These are some interesting non sequiturs.
I understand what these words mean individually, and they form a coherent sentence, and yet I'm somewhat lost as to the underlying meaning of it all.
So cleaning up knights. I don't think you need to be taking more knights. Like you were saying, better deck control and some throne rooms seems like it'll do a lot more than just adding more knights.
So Big Papa has finally reared their head in the chat. That was the player who's supposed to be playing cdloomis earlier and didn't show for the match we were going to record. And I guess they're around now. First time I don't understand. What?
I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm very confused.
Maybe they're describing the video. So I think cdloomis is two different sentences. Like, first time I've done it may help with strategy. Maybe they're talking about like the fact that this match is being recorded. You watch it to discover the strategies, and cdloomis is saying it's the first time they've had a match recorded and it might help. I don't understand the chess player lines still, but I think those two together could make sense of the first and third ones.
Oh, you watch to discover. Sure, like to discover new strategies, you watch the VOD afterwards. Okay.
Yeah.
I see it. And this is the first time cdloomis has had stuff recorded, so it may help with their strategy further on in the game. Alright, I figured we cracked the code.
Maybe chess players are known for having matches recorded and reviewing them. And provincials, they're not like that. They don't play chess. They don't do anything chess players do.
I don't think much chess, except for the very, very high level stuff, has commentary, like live commentary. Certainly chess players literally record their games, like write down the move sequences, and then people write up articles, they discuss it and stuff. But
Chess.com did have a nice series recently where a bunch of the top chess players were commentating on like very low level games. They got like a bunch of like random streamers with no chess experience to play chess, and they had like GMs like Hikaru Nakamura commentating like what are the names? I don't know the streamers' names, but like a bunch of the famous Twitch streamers like played chess against each other while GMs commentated them, and it was pretty entertaining to watch. Would recommend
really
that. Yeah. All right. Glad we could bring all this insightful, useful commentary on this kingdom to you.
Anyway, so we've got 2 piles out now. cdloomis with a very large point lead. Although a decent amount of that is unique knights, which can just kind of get demolished. Castle's looking to be the 3rd pile. Neither of them have really touched Shepherd. We have 1 seer gone and 2 sheps. So they both are sitting with not a lot of draw.
Yeah, so I like that Provincible bought a seer. Obviously, we're commentating this really good card. That being said, they bought golds earlier, which I think was a much less good buy. Gold is it's not a card that you buy. I'm confident I'm going to repeat this more than once over the course of this match, but I do not recommend buying golds very often. It tends to be the case most of the time, and it's certainly true here that gold is a worse card than many of the action cards in the kingdom. And even if it's like flashy and it costs 6 and you've got 6, you have to resist that temptation to be like, I've got 6, I need to buy the 6 cost card, because chances are that like the next knight or a seer or a shepherd is better for your deck. Or haunted castle would be a fine way to you get a free gold and also a castle. That might be a reasonable way to get gold. Gaining gold is often fine, but buying gold is usually a bit of a misstep.
Yeah, the way I've been thinking about it lately is that like the money cards are kind of like a baseline. So like if you have $3, any 3-cost card that's in the middle of the board kind of needs to be better than silver. Otherwise, it's like, well, why'd you buy it? In the same way, gold's effectively competing against 5-cost cards because a lot of the time you roll $5 and $6 hands very interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like a very strong analogy, but for like a low-level player, gold is competing against the 5-cost card, so it's got to be better than the various 5-cost cards on the board for you to really consider buying it.
Yeah, and not even just that, but gold's competing against everything below it. Often there's like 4-cost cards here that'll also be better, like Shepherd and Enchantress and so forth as well. But yeah, I agree with that. I actually believe back in the days of yore, this was well before my time, but I've been told that a sort of common rule of thumb for Dominion strategy way back when was the silver test, which is like an action card needs to be better than silver to justify buying it, which sounds similar to what you're describing. And back then, that was like not trivial. Like, with like first edition base and intrigue and stuff, and not a lot of the newer expansions, like big money was a lot more viable, and you really had to consider like, does like the action stuff really beat silver? Nowadays, most things beat silver, and pretty much everything beats gold. And so the question of does it pass the silver test or the gold test, I think, is almost always going to be a yes for gold, and usually a yes for silver even.
Yeah, that is interesting. I haven't really heard anyone reference the silver test outside of some very old stuff I've read.
Yeah, you don't hear it nowadays because it's just like, it's kind of trivial. Like, yes, does it pass the gold test? Yes, everything does.
Right. And these days, there's so many strong cards at the 3 and 4 cost range. Mm-hmm. And most of the, especially in the newer sets, which have had remarkably few duds, pretty much everything passes the silver test.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, silver is still a pretty good card, and like it makes a lot of sense to open a silver a lot of the time. Just because we're saying you don't want to buy gold doesn't mean you can't buy silver.
Yeah.
Silver can be great to get your economy started, start getting those good 5-cost cards. But what you usually don't want to do is fill up your deck with silver. At some point, there's diminishing returns, and you have to start asking, do I actually want another silver in my deck, or is it just clogging it up?
Yeah.
Now, on this board, you have Seer, where, it's happy to have a lot of extra silver.
Yeah, silver is hit or miss. Silver is often a reasonable card. It's often a card you get in the opening, not because it's like amazing, but because it's like the bridge to cards you really want. In a kingdom where like there's really good 5s and not many good 4s, you can consider it. Like, I think I threw out one opening that involved silver here at the beginning. Like, hideout silver could be fine. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the gold, however, I think is often much less good because silver is usually gotten because, I've got 3, and, well, I can't afford another 5, so I'll buy the silver. Or I need to get to 5, so I'll buy the silver. With gold, you've already hit 5, presumably, if you can afford a card for 6. And so there's no point buying the gold when you can definitely buy the action card instead.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, that was the true YOLO hideout right there.
You gotta live large.
But Provincible is, having the kind of hand that Duration Draw could help solve.
Yeah.
And some Shepherds would really be great as well, because you're carrying on a lot of green in these decks at this point.
Yeah, neither of them, I think, has built the type of deck that is reliable. Like, I think probably roughly, turn 8 to turn 10 onwards, you should be drawing your whole deck every turn for the rest of the game. Like, once you get that Enchantress, Shepherd type stuff set up, it's going to be consistent, because it's going to draw your whole deck, and then you can set up, like, a Throne Roomed Enchantress for next turn, and have a 9-card starting hand that's guaranteed not to dud the next turn, and then I'll set up the next turn, and so forth. And you got to get to there first before you start, adding all the other fancy things to your deck. And if you start with the fancy, like the flashy knights and too many castles and not enough shepherds and enchantresses and stuff, you're never going to get there in the first place.
Yeah, build order is a tricky thing, but one of the things I think we usually emphasize is that, like, the first thing you should be trying to do is get control of your deck. And that means getting to the ability where you can reliably draw your whole deck off almost every hand. Like, obviously, there's still going to be some possibility to have a dud hand where you just can't do anything. But through adding draw and through trashing your deck down, you can get to a point where you can reliably be playing with most of your deck every turn. And then you can really start adding payload.
Yep. Yeah, like I would think the rough order here is like you want at least 2 enchantresses, one for each turn because 1 enchantress will stay out of play every other turn. You want to get like a shepherd and maybe like a green card or 2 as a target. Like I was suggesting buying at a castle on the turn where you've got your hovel to trash that and replace it with a green card. And then the next step will be get a snowy village so you have plus buy, and then you can buy 2 things per turn. And once you've got that set up where you're drawing your whole deck every turn and you've got plus buys, so you can buy 2 things. Now you start adding in the stuff you really want for the most part.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Why
so where does Seer fit in that picture? Are you using it as more of a mid-game thing? Is there a win I'm not seeing, or is it just a very preemptive GG?
I don't understand why cdloomis is calling GG. They're just telling them they're going to buy the enchantress. Yeah. I wouldn't suggest calling GG to your opponent, like telling them that they're going to lose.
Yeah, that's just they're not quite maybe up to speed with our etiquette. I don't think there was any disrespect intended there. And yeah, look at that 40 museum points for CD Lewis. How many knights did they have? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 knights survives. That's pretty rare. You don't usually see
Yeah, the
chat on this whole time?
No, I think it was turned on briefly for a second and then off again.
Okay.
Alright, what do we got here? This looks weird. The first thing that jumps out to me of this kingdom is there's not a good way to draw cards. So, like, any big Inventor Megaturn things are off the table. There's also no good source of plus action. You can at least get villagers off of exploration, but, like, not enough. It sounds like they might have a play order issue. They do.
Oh.
Provincible has gone first game 1 and now game 2.
Okay, well, the good news is they noticed it before the game actually started, so no harm, no foul, I suppose.
Yep.
Usually when this happens to me, we just play it through and then the other person can have like 2 games in a row.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I think you could re-roll this kingdom and just like switch the play order. That'd be fine. You could also just roll a brand new kingdom with the right play order. Also fine. Whatever like 2 players agree on. I'm not sure what the official rules are. I think there probably is an official clarification for like what to do if the players disagree. But all of those seem like reasonable things that you could agree to do.
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna play this one out and then deal with it afterwards.
Oh, I interpreted their comment as like play this one but with reversed orders. I think you're actually correct though. Yeah. I think that's a perfectly reasonable way to resolve this.
Yeah. So let's look at this kingdom. Orchard is decent points, although there's definitely cards here I want a bunch of. I'm okay getting Miser Exploration. No, I cannot believe in Miser Exploration.
I don't believe in Miser Exploration. I'm sorry.
Familiar seems good here. You do have good trashing, but it's a kind of sloggy game.
Well, I would take Familiar kind of partly just because 3 Familiars is worth 4 points anyway. And so
exactly.
If you just build 3 Familiars.
Your deck at all.
Yeah. It's not like it's super fast game or anything. So I think something like Potion Improve could be a fine opening. Or Potion Silver.
What do you think about like Explode Potion?
I
think you don't actually get to keep any coffers going in.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of spinning the coffer. I like Exploration a lot. I'd be picking it up at some point. But I feel like I wouldn't spin the coffer for the potion. I mean,
It's not that good with Potion the opening, because I was thinking for some reason you get to carry the coffer in, which would make it less likely, obviously, to dud on Familiar. But we see a Death card open.
Interesting.
A Market Square open.
Okay, so
let's start with the Market Square, I guess.
Not a fan of CD Loomis's opening. The Market Square is doing literally nothing for you in this early game. You're not conceivably going to have enough money that you can afford to buy 2 things. So you don't need the plus buy. And a very real risk when you open potion is, or this is specifically for like cards that cost 3+ potion, like Familiar or Alchemist, is you draw that potion with like 2 coppers and 2 estates, and you have a really sad hand because your potion has now shown up for the shuffle and is gone again, and you don't get to buy the card you really wanted to buy, which is the Familiar. And so if I'm opening potion with Familiar or Alchemist around, I'm definitely opening a card that increases my likelihood of hitting 3 alongside that potion to avoid the really sad 2+ potion hands. So like Silver or Improve, I think, were the cards I listed.
Yeah. So Provincial went with this Death card opening and does manage to see the card together with a Ruin, which is nice. But what are you doing $7 here?
I don't. Yeah, Death card seems really bad to me just because like there's nothing here that costs a lot that I ever want to buy. Don't ever say that, Marlo. That is offensive. I need to like at least censor it. Like
it's even more than 6.
Like that. We don't talk about that card. I just had to explain to the players. Yeah, you should certainly never be buying gold here. Because there's Market Square, which gives you unlimited golds. If you really want golds, I think flooding your deck with gold in this kingdom is fine. It's a weak kingdom, but the much more efficient way to do that is just to like pick up Market Squares plus like Forager and Ratcatcher or something, and then you take the gold that way. Cards that give you gold can be totally fine. It's not that gold itself is bad when you're getting it off of like a Market Square effect or something. It's buying gold is bad because you can be buying better stuff.
I love cards that gain you gold.
Yeah, so Death card is in general, I think, not the strongest card just because it's a terminal. It hits a big number before you need to. Like, hitting 7 doesn't help you much. And it junks you. Those Ruins are really sad in your deck, and it's doubly sad if you draw your Death card without the Ruins. Do you then just trash the Death card and then have Ruins in your deck for nothing? Or do you not play the Death card and then you're really sad because you just got 3 junk cards in your deck? I think like Death card could be fine if you had like
specific boards to be good on.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you had like Inheritance or something around where it's a card you really want to buy for 7 early on, then that could be worthwhile. I've also liked Death card Arena in Weak Kingdoms. I've seen recently is kind of interesting because you're probably gonna win the Arena split if you've got a ton of Ruins in your deck.
A really good Death card game a couple days ago was Death card Captain and Way of the Pig.
Ooh. Yeah, Way of the Pig and Way of the Horse make Death card a lot better.
And Supplies was in the kingdom too. So you could use the Death card to get captains, then play the captains as Death cards to trash horses. It was great.
Yeah.
And you could pick whatever Ruins you ended up getting.
Yeah, some of the Ways are big boosts to Death cart. Way of the Horse also makes Death cart like an expedition and a half.
Triple
experiment. Yeah.
So yeah, we know officially now 2 experiments cost $3 and 3 experiments cost $4.
1 experiment costs $2. With Ride.
Exactly.
All right, so we've seen Provincial is now going into Miser after the Death card opening. Those cards don't really mesh well together. They're both terminal. And they bought a gold on turn 4, and I'm not liking the direction Provincial's deck has gone. The Ratcatcher seems fine. The Forager seems fine, but most of this other stuff seems pretty questionable.
So let's talk about the deck we would want to build here.
Yeah, so I think, Orchard is relevant. You're probably going to want to get at least like 3 copies of Familiar, 3 copies of Ratcat, 3 copies of Market Square before the end of the game, because those can all fit into your deck pretty easily with minimal harm to your deck and are all cards you kind of want. So I would think you start out by trying to get the Familiars and just annoy your opponent with curses. Your curses aren't like the end of the game here with decent trashing, but they're at least something. And then you're probably going to pivot into doing stuff with Market Square. I think you put some Market Squares in your deck and then activate them with Foragers and Ratcatchers. And then eventually you got a bunch of golds in your hands. And then you can start buying provinces.
Yeah, so that kind of follows one of the things we were talking about from the previous game, which is that formula of get deck control. And in this case, the way you get deck control is through trashing. And you don't get great deck control, but you get your deck a lot more slimmed down, and then you can start adding in gold, or whatever your payload is.
Yep.
I don't think you can really get to Leprechaun here. It just seems out of reach. I'm probably playing with one Inventor, maybe two.
Yeah, definitely agree with Leprechaun is out of reach. Definitely agree Inventor seems reasonable. One thing to point out is none of the cards that I think you really want here, like Market Square Forager, Familiar, or Ratcatcher, is terminal. And so you can consider adding like a terminal action card or two to your deck. And probably the best one here is Inventor, maybe Improve. And it's very minimal harm to adding it because none of your other action cards are really competing for that like plus action that it costs you to play it.
Yeah. And I like Inventor here because it really makes getting Orchard a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a good point. Inventor can pick up your market squares can get the golds, and you're getting the golds a lot faster in the long run that way.
Yep.
Now, I think an unspoken assumption of when you discuss Leprechaun that I think is very true, but might be worth saying, is Leprechaun is not worth getting unless you can play it as the exact 7th card in play. Gaining gold for a Hex is like not a good effect. It's kind of weak. Hexes hurt. Golds don't help that much. Certainly it's way worse than Market Square, but also just in general. I don't think I've ever seen a kingdom where I wanted the Leprechaun for the purpose of getting the golds. You get it for the wishes. And so you were saying, like, it's out of reach. The assumption is, like, yeah, it's out of reach for the wish. But I see a lot of newer players, they get, oh, you can buy Leprechaun turn 1 and get golds early. That's really good. As it turns out, it's not very good.
When I first started playing online, I thought Leprechaun was so strong. I had no idea how to build. I wasn't playing big money by any stretch, but I still had no idea how to do anything that didn't involve drawing up a bunch of money. And it was like, this thing prints gold and you could open it. Like, this seems amazing.
Yeah, turns out just like stuffing your deck full of golds early on is not the best way to have a strong deck. So where do we stand now? I liked cdloomis' opening a bit better, I think, but I'm not sure if they're still in the lead. It kind of looks like they are. It's a good question. It's 1-0 for cdloomis, right? Yeah. I'm remarkably bad at remembering the score for matches that I'm like currently watching.
It's very strange because you're commentating matches, and not you specifically, like when commentating, you tend to get like very focused on the match. At the same time, you get completely blurred out. You don't even remember what game number it is. Even though you might, upon thinking about it for a second, be able to recall like very precise mistakes people made at like certain turns.
Yeah.
Something about commentating also makes it all just kind of blur together.
Agreed.
But yeah, cdloomis won game 1. This is game 2.
So we see Provincible still buying golds one at a time. Yeah, I'm not expecting Provincible to win with this strategy. Buying golds is not the sign of a strong deck.
Provincible also seems to be losing the curse split pretty badly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, a good reason to think that they're losing the curse split is they don't even have a potion, let alone a familiar.
They don't have a familiar or a potion.
They are unfamiliar with this game.
Yeah, this eating 10 curses thing is going to be pretty rough. You know, there is good trashing on this board. If there was better draw, you could maybe skip familiar and just trash all the curses as they came in and hope it slowed your opponent down to detour for a potion. But there's nowhere near the draw or village support to like get that much control over your deck. So the curses are definitely going to hurt here.
Yeah.
In general, the slower the game is, the more curses will hurt.
Yeah, so like I was mentioning that like Orchard was one thing that tilted me in the direction of familiar. Remove that out of the question, and even without draw, you might consider just skipping familiar here because there's decent trashing with Forager and Ratcatcher, and you want to trash stuff anyway. I would probably still get familiar without Orchard, but the important thing is like the reason familiar is not the biggest threat here, and the reason why it's like probably get it is because you can get trashed here early. You can get some early Ratcatters and Foragers, get control of your deck, and then as the curses come in 1 or 2 at a time, you can kind of deal with them. You know, with the trashes that you already have and the thin deck that you already have, the curses will be easy to get rid of. Provincible opened by doing kind of the opposite of that, right? They added a Death Cart and a bunch of Ruins to the deck, and they bought more Golds, which are just more stop cards in the deck. And so now that the curses are coming in, their deck isn't really prepared to get rid of the curses. And so while Familiar might not be the strongest threat here in the abstract, it's a big threat to Provincible's deck, because this deck is not capable of dealing with curses.
Yeah. And this is, right now with Provincible's hand, this is definitely like the death card in a nutshell, which is you drew your death card with a ruin, but so what? Like, what was the point of that? We buying another gold?
Yeah, yeah. The best thing your hand is doing is buying in gold. It's not a good sign.
Like you drew a death card with only one stop card, effectively. One dark card.
April is pointing out in chat the classic dark arts, not dark arts. Oh my god, what's that? Dark Ages expansion strategy that I think everyone thinks of and then is actually kind of rarely good, which is like you turn all your junk into rats via rats, and then you trash them with death carts, and that seems like so amazing.
It doesn't actually work out that well.
Yeah. Bought another market square. Yeah. Market square might be fine there. I'm not sure.
So Provincial will presumably green here. I don't think you really want to forge a gold there.
Why are we buying the golds one at a time, only to trash them for 2 coins?
Yeah, it's minus coin, and I mean, we've been talking about how you don't want golds in your deck. Or the bigger thing is it's the opportunity cost of what you could have gotten instead of that gold. Just because we don't like gold doesn't mean to get rid of it. Once it's in your deck, you should use it. Don't just kill it.
Yeah, we don't like buying gold, but like often putting golds in your deck can be fine. Like market square, I think, is an important part of the best strategy in this kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's definitely where I'm planning on getting my payload from.
Yeah.
Like, often if there are cards that grant money and can be stacked or played a lot of them somehow, that's better payload. Also, if you can... My dogs are going crazy. They're fighting. Like, play fighting. So apologies if you hear some background doggo noises. But in a lot of boards, the best payload is going to be money.
Ooh, we got a leprechaun.
Ooh.
I'm with you. I don't believe in the leprechaun.
It just seems like a complete pipe dream to get to 6 uniques here from that.
Yeah, I mean, like, theoretically, you could just, like, play a bunch of market squares and then play your leprechaun, but, like, the likelihood of lining that up is both low and it's not even worth trying to do.
Yeah. Just 6 spins and a leprechaun for a golden wish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something I'd be thinking about them right about now, if I were in their shoes, is where do you stand on orchard points?
Why did you just not trash the estate?
That's a good question.
In general, estates are worse than copper. You want to kill your coppers after the estates. Coppers aren't great, but at least they make all money. Estates really don't do anything. If you're in a very tight endgame, obviously, sometimes estates become very important, but in general, kill them off early, and you can buy them back later if you need to. Yeah,
most of the time, trashing estates is a lot more important than trashing copper. So that kingdom we saw a second ago was an exception to that rule, but for sure, the vast majority of the time, estates like the worst card in your deck. They're both at 2 rat catchers each, so the next rat catcher either of them buys is worth 4 points for them. What about market squares?
Very late undo. I think I'd probably ask my opponent to explain here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They does not want to buy gold. I don't like denying it without even like talking about it.
Yeah,
it just feels kind of cold.
What the question was?
Yeah.
What the undo point is?
Like, yeah. Okay, here we go. They're at least asking. And these players might be newer, so I think the general norm here for undos is if your opponent hasn't learned anything new, generally it's pretty much like an auto grant. Like, yeah, they played a card that doesn't draw anything and they want to undo that card. Yeah, sure, whatever. If they've learned new information, that's when you get into sticky territory. Like if you've played your smithy and drawn a bunch of cards, well, then you could like see that you didn't like the cards you drew, undo and play a different card instead. And so generally you don't ask for undos that grant new information unless that information was like inconsequential, or irrelevant to the decision, and then it's fine. Like here, I think this seems fine. Like I don't think that they're learning what their next hand was influenced their choice to want to buy province here, and so I would grant this.
I'd say the only example of info undos I usually grant are when, like, let's say you had a village and a smithy, and you click the smithy before the village.
Yeah.
If you can undo and say, I'm sorry, I need to play a village first, and I know what sequence of moves you're playing, then, like, I'm okay with you undoing to play that sequence instead. There's an element of trust there. If you say, oh, I need to play a village first, you undo, and then you go on a completely different line, like, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Luckily, no one's like that in Dominion. So.
Yeah, I don't really come across people who are, like, particularly overly, I guess, taking advantage of the undos, like undoing ridiculous things that I have to deny very often. And so in general, like, if I see the button show up, I just click it without thinking most of the time. Death cart. I think at this point, death cart might be fine. Like, you're trying to hit big numbers late in the game.
Trying to get those ruined orchard points, dude.
Oh, yeah, you gotta line up 3 ruined markets. So what do you get here? Duchy is not unreasonable, but I think I'd probably be adding another card of value because you're about to shuffle your deck. I don't think that is more market squares. They certainly have enough market squares to have orchard points already. That additional market square is not really helping you at this point.
So again, market square does give you a very valuable plus buy, and its reaction can be very important, a great way to generate scaling payload, but it is still cantrip. It's not doing anything but replacing itself with another card in your deck. So it's not draw. It doesn't end up giving you more cards. It doesn't add any new abilities for having cycled a little bit other than a buy. Unless you can use that buy, just filling up your deck with market squares really isn't going to do much.
So H-Roll seems to think it might be aiming for the pile out, like you get 2 market squares and 2 death carts. Well, if Preventible's going to help him do that, then maybe so. But I didn't think that was the plan. I didn't think, like, 9 points was enough of a lead to be like, I can forego 4 gains to spend my time piling out. Now they just win. So Preventable has helped them. You buy 2 death cards here and you win. Market square is empty. Curse is empty. If you buy... Oh, nope. No. So now, going back to a second ago, I am renewedly confused as to why they got a market square, if the point was not to pile out market squares and ruins. Just in case it wasn't totally clear, the pile out they missed there is there's 2 piles empty and ruins are at 4. If you buy 2 death carts, which they could with 2 buys and 10 coins, then you'd gain 4 ruins, and then all 3 piles would be empty. They already had a points lead and they would win.
Yep.
Like, this is the part of the game where you're not even particularly likely to be gaining gold off of your market squares, because, like, the gold isn't even going to potentially help you until the next shuffle, and we're so far into the game that you might not ever even get that next shuffle. You'd rather just take the 1 draw now for market square by playing it than discarding it. Forager is still worth 2. So they have another win in hand. My guess is if they didn't see it last time, they won't see it this time. So they'll probably just buy Province, which is still...
This time they have 4 buys, so they could literally buy out the ruins.
Oh, yeah, maybe they didn't see the Death Cart pile out, but they'll see the quadruple Ruins pile out where they just buy them directly. Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, okay. Worked out. I mean, buying Province there was also, like, totally winning. Not immediately, but, like, they would have had enough of a points lead that it would have been unlocked.
Win when you can win.
Yes, yes, certainly. The optimal play there is the Ruins. All right, 2-0 for cdloomis.
Mm-hmm. And if you look, cdloomis had a fat 16. Okay, that might be
Wait, what?
the end of the set for now.
I see this a lot at lower levels. They'll start a match and they'll be like, nah, I'm done. We'll play more later. Rather than, like, finishing the match in one go.
He just pieced.
Wow, yeah. Okay, then.
I think, honestly...
2 games?
It might be a bit salty.
Yeah, I mean, poor cdloomis. This is the same person who had Big Papa, the other players, totally bail on them earlier today, a few hours ago.
Yeah, they're having terrible Dominion luck.
Yeah.
Big Papa's still here. See if Big Papa wants to play.
Yeah, I'm down to continue if Big Papa wants to play.
All right. We got stuff to commentate. Let's go.
cdloomis might not realize they have spectator chat off still, so if Big Papa responds, they still can't actually see.
Hey, they just turned spec chat on, so they got it.
Nice, yeah. They're on top of this. As a Big Pop, if you already bailed on them once, I think you're kind of obligated to take them up on this. Are they even there? They're present in the room. Maybe they're not paying attention or they're AFK or something.
Someone tag them on Discord.
Yeah, you could ping them.
Let me see if they're under the same username. They are, but they're not online. I just pinged them on Discord.
Oh, we'll see if they actually play this time.
But it doesn't show them being online.
Uh-oh. I don't think they... Oh, well, cdloomis is now gone. I don't think this is happening.
Alright. Well, those are fun games to commentate.
Yeah. Fun if short.
And who knows, maybe we'll pop back up in a little bit later and keep commentating.
Yeah. Alright. Ta-ta for now.
Wait.
Oh, wait. Oh. Wait, so cdloomis is back, but now as a spectator? Oh my goodness, we got it. It's happening. Okay. That was... Okay, we got a match.
We got a match. I think we got a match.
Man, scheduling games in J League is something else.
Meanwhile, I haven't even attempted to schedule anything for my season yet.
I mean, my division has like Kaplane in it, so I'm sure it'll happen eventually. We'll get around to the matches. The one thing I think that lower divisions are good about is they play early. Like I remember there was a breakdown of like what percentage of matches had been played like halfway through the season or whatever, and I remember like C League and B League were like dead last. A League was really low, and like H had like already finished 90% of their matches or something absurd. So they play in weird ways. They play 2 games at a time or whatever, but they play early at least.
Yeah, I definitely remember when I was still in some of the lower rated leagues.
What is going on? Are they creating a new table? cdloomis is left and joined again. Big Papa said they're ready. It's just sitting in spectator area.
They're both in spec right now.
Yeah, cdloomis is back. They're struggling to get this set up, I think. Okay, Big Papa has joined.
Okay, we got Papa in the building.
Now just cdloomis needs to rejoin as a player.
Okay, so it looks like they're having some issues. Sometimes you do just get randomly locked out of tables and stuff. So sometimes you see this a lot where people just have to create a new table.
All right, so we got a new table up. So we're waiting for Big Papa to join it. So I believe, and this was discussed earlier when we were initially anticipating Big Papa showing up, and they didn't. That this is going to be
the board.
What?
So we have 5 base cards, 2 intrigue, 2 promos, another base card, and landscaper empty.
Yeah, what I was about to say is I believe Big Papa is not familiar with all the expansions, and so they've agreed to play with just like some of the expansion stuff. So like throw in it's 2 intrigue and 2 promo cards. And so we'll see base-ish games. Oh, they have spectator chat on, do they not? They do.
You can turn it off mid.
Yeah.
Set now though.
Yeah, it's a nice little addition. Now, one thing that was also discovered recently, because we were just discussing this, is if you have Black Market, which is a promo card, but you've limited the game to only like base, intrigue, and promos, then there aren't even actually 60 cards in the game for Black Market to build a deck out of. And so what you end up having will be like a tiny Black Market deck, where Black Market has like a 10-card deck to it or something. All right, we got a Kingdom.
But so this was my initial thought when I saw promos. If Governor on the board, you're going to want to do almost nothing but click Governor.
Yeah, so, I mean, that tends to be how Governor works, because Governor is a real strong card, and you play with it a bunch.
I mean, yes, but, like, it seems like Governor plus base would be, is there Militia? Then do that. If not, do pretty monolithic Governor things.
Yeah, so here, there's no plus action to go around, and the only draw is Terminal, Smithy. So, without plus action, Smithy can't really draw you cards, because if you play the Smithy, you're drawing them and you can't use them. So I would think the thing to do here is just like governors and then like a replace or two, where you use the governors to gain golds and occasionally to remodel the golds in the provinces. And then ideally you're remodeling the golds in the province via replace. And that also gives out a curse. So something like that. Some combination of replacing governor seems really good. And maybe I would throw in an artisan there probably if you hit 6 early, where in the early game artisan gains you extra governors, and then in the late game artisan just becomes the thing to turn into province.
Yeah, I like the idea of playing with Artisan as the early part as my like best terminal / my terminal for the early building part of the game, and then transferring over to replace once I'm ready to start cashing in.
Yeah. So let's see how they opened. Big Papa opened Silver Ironworks. I don't love the Ironworks. I think that would work if you were trying to do like a merchant heavy thing and like play lots of merchants and a few silvers, and that's an okay deck, but I think it's gonna be a lot weaker than the Governor thing here. And the downside of Ironworks is it's not great at helping you hit 5, because if you play it to gain an action card, it's giving you 0 coins. Even if you use it to like gain a treasure, it's only giving you 1 coin. And the 5s and 6s here look really good. So I would think Smithy Silver or Silver would be the 2 openings to consider, where Smithy Silver is really likely to get 6 for Artisan, but at the downside of Smithy's not a card you want particularly much in the deck. And Silver helps you hit 5, which is almost as good. Governor and Replace are fine cards.
Yeah, I don't really get what the Ironworks is doing here. What are you planning on gaining with it?
Lots of merchants, it seems.
Or silver.
And silvers? Okay.
Presumably they want to buy a Smithy or Dismantle?
What do they get? Dismantle. Okay. I think Dismantle is often a pretty weak card if you're getting it early on. Sometimes you do it anyway just because you need to trash. But Dismantle, like if it's trashing coppers, it's kind of sad because it's just terminal, trash 1 copper, do nothing else. It is about the weakest trasher you can have. And if it's trashing estates, it's also kind of sad because you're taking 1 junk card out of your deck, estate, and adding 2 more, copper and gold. So it's actually making your deck thicker, not thinner. Dismantle can be pretty good as payload to an engine, where you like dismantle a gold into a 5 and get the gold back. But is trashing, it's kind of a last resort.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is you need to look to what Dismantle excels at, obviously, is getting golds into your deck. So you need to look and say, am I really going to be doing anything with gold in my deck this early?
Yeah.
Like, it is a stop card, so do you need gold early on? If you do, and sometimes you do, then Dismantle makes sense as an early game play.
Now, even so, like, Governors can be a lot better way to get golds in this kingdom, I think. Just open like double silver and put Governors in your deck.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, the one that can do it non-terminally, I'd say is definitely better. And it jumps your opponent with the silver.
So Big Papa keeps making an error that I think is pretty basic here, which is they have 2 action cards in their hand. And they play the one that's terminal before the one that's non-terminal. If you play the Dismantle first, you can't play the Ironworks. If you play the Ironworks first, you can play the Dismantle. As long as you get an action card. So you play the Ironworks, you get like a merchant, and then you play the Dismantle. And so what they're doing here is basically passing on a free merchant. Similarly, I believe 2 or 3 turns ago, where was it? Chattertail pointed this out. On turn 6, Big Papa had a merchant and a smithy in hand, and played the smithy before the merchant, which again means you can't play the merchant at all. Whereas if you play the merchant first, you can still play the smithy and then draw one. So yeah, obviously, if you have cards that give you action back, play those before the cards that don't give you action back, and then you can play all of your cards. You know what tournament Big Papa would benefit a lot from? There's a tournament currently.
Does not have to think about actions.
Yeah.
Boy, is there ever.
There's a tournament currently in the sign-up stages, the No Terminals Mix, which is a tournament where all the kingdoms have no terminal action cards in them whatsoever. So like you could have Merchant and Market, but you could not have Smithy. And so there'd be no way to accidentally run out of actions.
I'm waiting for H-Roll to analyze the mix and come up with something. He's got the technology.
So incidentally, there was a Spoiler Kingdom posted, and it had stables in it. And I pointed out that stables can be terminal if you have no treasures in hand. And Donald X removed stables from the mix as a result.
Oh, I love stables. I think it's a great card. Why'd you do that?
Don't even get me started. So where do we stand now? Who's getting that replaced?
So with 8, they bought a Market, which is okay. I think Artisan or Governor are probably better at this point.
I would think Artisan seems really good for CD Loomis. Something to note here is I'm pretty sure all the terminal action cards, the Dismantle, the Smithy, and the Replace, are in Big Papa's deck, which suggests that 3 terminals is not bad for a deck that's like not particularly trashed, but Big Papa's starting to border on being over terminaled, where you've got too many cards that don't give plus action back, and they're bumping into each other and you can't play them all. And CD Loomis kind of has the opposite problem, which is they're under terminaled. I think in general.
I flipped it.
Yeah. What was that?
Nothing. I flipped it. I'm just dyslexic. Anyway. Okay.
In general, with some exceptions, of course, you always want to be playing with some terminal action card in your deck because, like the reason cards are terminal actions is because like they're strong, right? Their effect is enough that you buy it even if it costs an action to play. Whereas like throwing on +1 action, +1 card to like a merchant or something like that is done because the effect on its own is not strong enough. And so if you're choosing between like a Market and a Replace, and you have no other terminal actions in your deck, so you got like 1 free action to use per turn, chances are Replace is the better card. Once you've got a few terminals in your deck, well, non-terminal cards start to look better because you can still play them alongside your terminals. But if you have 0 terminal action cards in your deck, which I think, at least as of a second ago, and I think it's still true, CD Loomis does, I'd be looking to buy like a Replace or an Artisan or something to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Artisan really looks powerful because this is a kingdom that's dominated by Governor, and Artisan can just pick up Governors and put them on top for your next hand.
Yep.
So I'm guessing the way CD Loomis is going to play here is to finish off the Governors and then just use them as draw and try to buy provinces because they've been building up a lot of markets.
Yeah, I think Governor is often sad if you're having to use it for draw a lot. Because you're going through the work of getting the Governors to draw, and your opponent's getting a pretty good benefit from doing nothing because they're getting draws from your Governors. And then I find that like if one person, like in a simple monolithic Governor kingdom, like this one's pretty close to, if one person's like drawing a bunch with the Governor, trying to do like the big play where they have a big turn, and the other player just uses their Governor to get golds and trash them into provinces, the latter usually I think tends to win. Like if there were a village here, I'd probably be looking to do like village and smithy as draw and Governor as payload, and use something else to draw.
Yeah, I would say the key to playing Governor well is to use it as payload and to try to build a deck that can draw that and gold together rather than relying on Governors to draw Governors.
Yeah.
But here there's very little. Well, there's really no other draw, so
yeah,
get a lot of Governors.
All right, so are you gonna keep drawing?
Don't draw 3 again.
Please don't draw. Please, there's 1 card left. Okay, trashing silver.
Silver to Gov, I'm guessing.
I would have. Yeah, Governor is fine as long as you buy an Artisan here. Replace is starting to look better than Artisan even. You've got most of your Governors. and replace is going to be like the ideal terminal here. You can replace a gold into a province and curse your opponent, which is something you're going to use a governor for anyway.
Yeah, the less overloaded your governors are, the better. When you're relying on them to draw and remodel, they end up a decent amount worse than if your deck can do one of those things for them.
Yeah. Just a merchant here, I would think. It's the only card that looks better than nothing.
Yeah, sure.
I still like cdloomis' deck better here. Probably mostly just because it's playing lots of governors, which is a thing a good deck in this kingdom should be doing. Like, even if I think mass drawing with governors isn't the optimal thing, it's still a pretty good thing in an absolute sense. So now we've got that terminal collision I was talking about from Big Papa. They got the dismantle and the replace in hand, and they can't possibly play both. I guess you could consider playing neither. You've got 7 money right now. You could like play your Ironworks, gain a silver, and buy a province even. So maybe Ironworks is in the cards. But probably I think what you would do here would be Ironworks for a merchant, and then like replace the dismantle into a governor or artisan or something.
Yeah, so I don't know about that, Chadio. I think they could definitely add a bunch more gold into their deck before they do a big remodel. I don't think they have a ton of gold so far. I saw 2 gold when they were just drawing their deck.
Yeah, I think they're a little. I mean, you could start winning this turn, but you definitely need to be thinking about adding a bunch of golds for this governor thing, because governor obviously thrives with having golds as targets. I guess one important thing to point out from something I was saying about cdloomis' deck is, like, if it weren't a governor game, the sort of thing that they're trying to do here, I think would make a lot of sense. Where they're mostly drawing up their deck, and then they're not doing so much to add golds, and they're waiting a long time to green. Like, that's in general good deck building principles. We were saying they should have done more of that in previous games. I think the reason why I'm more on board with not doing that here, partly is because it's the lack of other stuff to do. Like we said, there's not good supplementary draw, there's no villages and whatnot. But a big part of that is just governor in particular, I think really warps the game towards just taking provinces. Because governor is a card it's really good at getting rid of provinces early. It gets you golds and it gets provinces, and so it can put away provinces really fast. But it's also a card that's really bad at getting duchies. And usually, if you're trying to build the bigger engine that draws the deck, you're totally fine losing the province split. Like if they get 5 provinces, you're like, whatever, I'll get 3 provinces and a few duchies and I'll still win. But with governor, it's actually often easier to get provinces than get duchies, because you can get golds that can be turned into provinces, but you can't easily get silvers for yourself to turn into provinces.
Oh, many a governor game I've lost where you reach the end of the game and you realize, like, well, I can remodel 3 golds now, but then I lose and I don't have any plus buy.
Yeah.
And I have nothing that's the right cost to remodel into duchy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so with governor specifically, I think you're often much more willing to go for provinces a bit earlier than you normally would, largely for that reason. And in fact, I think governor is one of the lowest, if not the very lowest cards in terms of likelihood that a game ends on a 3-pile relative to provinces. Governor games just almost always end on provinces for that reason, relative to the average where about as many games in on 3 piles as provinces in your generic kingdom.
Yeah, so you can see Big Papa still has this problem, and we'll have it all game because there's no village, where they have all these terminal action cards and really no ability to play them.
Yep.
So they're acting like junk cards. They're almost curses right now.
Yeah, these smithies are worse than in useless. So you'd rather them not be in your deck, because you're having to waste a draw to draw them every time. You don't even get to play them all. Now with villages around, having a bunch of smithies in your deck would be great. If you had even just a generic village here, it'd be really good. But they do not. That being said, Big Papa does have the lead, and we were just talking a second ago about the issue of getting behind in governor games. So who knows?
Yeah, Big Papa, I think, has a slightly better economy, but they certainly don't have the governor stack or the sort of everything set up for that explosive big turn. but I don't know if Loomis knows how to do a big governor turn where you're remodeling.
I think they're drawing a bit much here. Again, I would start thinking about gaining provinces pretty soon.
Yeah,
now, like right now. Please, provinces, pretty please.
Stop drawing.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that was
one card with a governor.
Yeah, drawing yourself a card to draw your opponent a card is worse than nothing.
That was actually painful.
Yeah, definitely that last governor play was a big error. And again, it's a reasonable error to make, I think, because again, we were saying in most kingdoms, trying to draw through your whole deck is a really good thing to do. With governor, I think it kind of turns the tables a bit in favor of just get the provinces earlier.
The good news is for CD Loomis, Big Papa's deck is just not doing anything. So they're at 23 cards right now or something in the hand, and they can't do anything. Can Ironworks for some stuff and then replace one thing.
Yeah, they can't even get a province here. There's no conceivable way for them to get a province other than turning province into province.
So replace the province to province.
Yeah, they can't increase the number of provinces in their deck.
Okay.
Yeah, the Ironworks are feeling pretty bad. I don't think the merchants are that worth it. That was a sad Smithy draw.
Well, that's what happens when you have Smithies with no villages in a deck that has a lot of action cards in them. They're just going to draw stuff dead. So, I mean, you got to be really careful about using terminal draw in decks without the right kind of village support, because it's not just I might draw some cards dead. So the Smithy didn't do that much, is now I don't get to see those cards and play them for the rest of the shuffle too.
Yeah. It was a sad draw. It was not an unpredictable draw. CD Loomis is playing more than they need to. They've had the merchant pile out since halfway into their turn. I
don't see it.
Oh no, CD Loomis, please. They found the ruins pile out. Admittedly, they missed it the first time, but they found it the second time. So maybe the second time they'll see this merchant pile out. Yeah. It was even the same spot. They piled out the bottom left-hand card in the kingdom. Yeah. My faith.
Well,
second time's the charm for CD Loomis. They're gonna find it this time for sure. I believe.
Do they do any remodeling, or they just keep drawing?
Oh, they're probably just gonna take the last province, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's the boring way to finish.
What would be the stylish way?
Emptying those merchants, just to show that you knew they were there. And you would have altered I was gonna say you would have altered the governor's stats, because that would be a governor game that ended on 3 piles.
Yeah.
But this game is certainly not in the stats log. It is both unrated and I think it is well below the rating threshold to qualify.
Yeah.
The desperate duchy from Big Papa is certainly too little too late.
In general, having cards at 4 and 7 cost is really powerful in governor games, because you can often steal games by... Okay, just hit enter.
I was still going. Come on.
Well, stop kicking him. He's already dead.
Yeah, this is just mean. Poor Big Papa.
I thought the game had ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So it is 2-0 for CD Loomis, is that right?
Yep, that is correct. Okay, so Governor's back. I guess this is what happens when you play with promos.
Yeah. We're not playing with the biggest set of cards here. They're playing with 2 expansions plus promos, which is 60 cards or so total?
Yeah. Okay, so we have a village. So...
Uh-oh. Did they mess up the play order?
Someone pop it in Discord.
Wait, was that the first game? I don't know. I don't even know. Was that game 1?
It might be, because we switched sets and...
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I'll blame it on that, and not just my general inability to keep track. Big Papa was first in game one.
So let's talk about Masquerade. One of the best cards in the game.
Yeah, so Masquerade's a really good card. Probably second best $3 card after Ambassador, but very close. It draws you cards, it trashes cards. Those are two good things you want to do, and the things you want to do early. And it costs 3, so you can always open with it.
And it jumps your opponent.
Yeah. Certainly Masquerade is really good here. Now, this is also Governor Kingdom. This is one where you can build a lot bigger on. Here, I think you're looking a lot more to build a big deck, and you'll be wanting to draw your deck here. I think the phase of this game will be you'll play with Masquerade to get thin early. You'll get some witches to give out some curses, plus witches or draw, and then you'll end up with Governor as your payload to that deck that plays as like a few witches and masquerades and walled villages, and then Governor at the end of that.
Are you using Lab? I would think that I would want Labs as draw to help me draw my Governors.
Yeah, I think there's probably room to get Labs in there for sure for the draw.
So, cdloomis should open Merchant.
Not a fan.
Big Papa just opened Walled Village.
Less a fan.
So let's talk about why you don't usually want to open. Well, okay, so Merchant, right? Merchant only does something if it sees a silver. You just open Silver Merchant, which is kind of the only way you can open Merchant. So if Merchant doesn't see that card, you only have 1 silver in your deck right now. Then it's just a cantrip and didn't do anything. Likewise with Walled Village, you have no terminal cards in your deck yet, so it's just a cantrip. All it does is replace itself in your hand. It's like it was never there.
Yes. Yeah, this is just a thing I see an awful lot in games at this level. That seems very prevalent and yet almost always bad, is buying a village turn 1 or turn 2. Villages are great cards. You're going to want walled villages in this kingdom, for sure. Because you have a lot of terminals you want to play. Multiple witches, masquerades, maybe a baron even for plus buy. But if you open with it early, before you have the action cards, then it's pointless. The walled village helps when you have multiple terminal action cards, which you can't possibly have at this point in the game. So you get the good cards early that help your deck fast, and then you'll get the walled villages later. Certainly, I think without a shadow of a doubt, the one iron law of this kingdom is you buy Masquerade turn 1 or turn 2. Maybe both.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the other card is. It could be double Masquerade. Probably Masquerade Silver is best. Maybe Masquerade Poacher even could be worth considering. Masquerade Silver feels like a good way to hit 5, though. What were you about to say?
All of those sound reasonable. But yeah, in general, if you don't know what to do on a board in Dominion, you can open Mass Silver. That's like pretty solid on most boards.
Yeah. Yeah, Masquerade's really good. The one tricky part about Masquerade is it's terminal and it's drawing you two cards. So if you open Masquerade with another terminal, you're reasonably likely to collide it, right? You'll have Masquerade and 11 other cards, and that Masquerade's going to see 6 of those cards, the 4 that it started with plus the 2 that it draws. So statistically, it's pretty likely, more likely than not, that you collide them. Masquerade is not a bad opening. It's like a high roll. If you see them on separate turns, you're really happy. But Masquerade Silver is like a nice opening because the silver can't be, it can't collide or get in the way of Masquerade, and you're really likely to hit 5, which is a good number to hit.
See, that's a much more sensible way to gain walled villages. Even though I don't think that Governor may be best used by remodeling an estate, especially before we really have too many terminals in the deck.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of using Governor for the remodel effect here. In general, if you're trying to trash with Governor early, most of the time that's pretty bad because trashing a card and getting a card costing 2 more is barely better than trashing a card and getting a card costing 1 more. The operative thing you're doing there is trashing a card, right? And if anything, an opponent's Governor is better at getting rid of your coppers than your own Governor is, because they can trash the copper and get nothing back, whereas you have to gain like a cellar or an estate or something you don't want. And so that Governor is like...
Going into province.
Ooh, hate that. Very bad.
Continue.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Governor to get thin is really bad, because it's helping your opponent get thin almost as much as it's helping you get thin, which is basically adding next to no value to you relative to your opponent. I would think that the early 5 here is probably Witch. Like, start in on a Masquerade, and then you get Witches and Walled Villages, and then you get around to Governor later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Province on turn 7 is just way too early. Now, again, Governor tilts you in the direction of taking Provinces a bit early, but much more so than the last kingdom. Everything else in this kingdom just screams build big. You've got good draw, you've got good trashing, you've got good attacks, you've got plus buy. You got everything you want here to build a much bigger deck. Even with Governor around, you're going to build pretty big. Who has 0 terminals? Is this CD Loomis again? For shame. Yeah, why does CD Loomis have walled villages anyway? What is that contributing to this deck?
You got me.
Yeah, so... so CD Loomis, key cards to take here are Masquerade and Witch. Masquerade to get your deck thinner, Witch to get their deck thicker. And those are terminal action cards. So if you had those...
Hey,
I like this. Masquerade. I like this play a lot. This is not something I expected from J-League. They had 9 money there, and I think a real bad habit you see a lot is I've got so much money, I need to buy something expensive. I guess I'll buy Province. Province is not the card their deck needed. I think Masquerade is a pretty plausible, maybe the best buy there, and I like seeing them buy it even though they had 9. They were really late to the game, but definitely better late than never here. Now, by contrast, we do see. Big Papa on turn 8 buying a gold, and I did say I was going to complain multiple times this match about this, and I'm going to stick to my word. Don't buy golds. Please don't buy golds. Don't do it. Resist the temptation. Gold is not a good card. There's also a card here that costs less than gold and gives you infinite golds. Governor. Why would you buy 1 gold when you can buy infinite golds for less money? Doesn't make sense to me. Buying gold is just it tears me up inside.
Okay, well, now CD Loomis has a terminal for his walled villages.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why Masquerade is so strong, is that if your opponent's raining down on curses and you're losing the curse split, if you have good draw in Masquerade, you can just throw them right back at them.
Now here, I'd be remodeling that silver into a Witch right now. I think this is a much better use of the Governor trashing. When you're using not so much to trash your cards, it's to gain a new 5 cost. Often, Governor remodeling the silvers you gain into Governors is a common thing to do here. Here, I think Witch is an even better card to get than Governor.
To be fair, you did just pass them a curse, so you're guaranteeing that they can trash that curse if you do a remodel.
Yeah, but they could have trashed something anyway, like a copper or something, if you didn't pass them that.
Yeah. I still think it's probably the right thing to do.
I don't care about the merchants at all. Yeah.
Merchants? Why are we talking about merchants?
I think the idea is if you trash the silver, your merchants are sad, but merchant is not a card that matters anyway.
Oh yeah, who needs actual money?
So
we can just remodel stuff.
What is Big Papa's terminal count? It's just the Witch, right?
It's got a Witch.
And
no
that
I think they have a cellar.
That's not terminal.
Yeah, no terminals.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep track of what they bought.
So if we just count up the total number of terminal actions that have been gained. Big Papa has 1 terminal action, the Witch. CD Loomis has 1 terminal action, the Masquerade. If you want to play 1 terminal action per turn, you only need 1 action, which fortunately you start with in every turn. So it is a little bit bizarre that walled villages are at 5 right now.
It's not like Walled Village even does anything else. It's not Workers' Village or a village that you might bizarre that maybe you pick up more for the consistency of wanting a peddler than really you need another village.
Yeah.
Walled Village literally does nothing. It's a vanillage. Oh my god.
So you are allowed to play the match over multiple time frames. It's not like you get disqualified for leaving early. But poor CD Loomis just can't get a full match scheduled. Yeah. I was just watching a game the other day where
gets some stuff commentated, starts beating his opponent so badly they all just run away.
Yeah, I saw a game the other day where someone in the middle of the first game of the match was like, "I've got a meeting in a few minutes. Can you hurry this up?" Why did you schedule a match when you can play less than 1 full game? Okay.
So we're seeing a province march.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's too late to do anything about province. With provinces that low, it's not like you try to like fix it and go back to building. Now you're locked in. You're going to try to win by taking a majority of provinces here.
Yeah.
Um.
So you always want to play out your draw before your governors, even cantrips, so that if you did find a gold or something, you could possibly remodel it with governor.
I don't like playing the governor first. Like the governor is a card. Here's like a good way to think about this in the abstract. It's like if you have a card that gives you information and a card that gives you choices, you tend to want to play the card that gives you information before you make the choices. Masquerade, it's kind of deterministic. It's going to draw you 2 cards. You're going to trash a card. Governor gives you lots of options. You play that Masquerade. You see how much money you have, what cards you have, and then you can make a more informed choice whether you want to draw with your governor, gain a gold, or trash something. So I think definitely much better. So now Big Papa should be able to win here by buying a province and gaining a duchy.
In hand. Let's see if they see it.
Yep. Or even the witch is enough to take the tie, but they certainly have the win here.
You could also remodel. You go silver to duchy or gold to province. Either one works.
You could even do copper to estate if you want to be fancy.
Oh, wow, I never noticed that. Copper, silver, and gold remodel governor to estate, duchy, province perfectly.
Yeah, actually, copper to estate probably doesn't work because then your opponent can trash something and potentially take the lead. So the safe play here is province plus duchy. If you remodel with governor, I mean, if your opponent trashes a walled village and gains a duchy, you just take the tie anyway. You don't want to give them another turn.
Yeah.
All right, we got a win from Big Papa.
1-1. That is why 2 provinces is not safe in a governor game.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit unnecessarily risky, I think, from cdloomis there in that last turn.
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting set if and when it actually happens because it's kind of governor mix.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see governor a bunch in a base intrigue promo match. I mean, all right, I think this is the last game they're playing, though. So we'll call it there. Good commentating with you.
Yeah, always fun.
And I wish them luck in the rest of their match.
If and when that happens.